So the other day, my daughter dropped her phone and the screen still works, but not really. You can see it, it's kind of green, and this put her into a bit of a panic, and the tears were flowing like life was over, but it wasn't really over. And I tell you this story because this was a disrupt for her, and her phone, most kids, it's a big deal to them. And as adults, we know that it's not really that big of a deal. Yes, there's information on there that if you lose it, that's gonna suck. And it's gonna take some time to get back. But at the end of the day, that's not really that big of a deal. But there are situations, events that happen in our life that cause the same disrupt that put us into a panic and bring fear and anxiety and all sorts of other emotions that we have to deal with and we have to get through. And this can happen in our health. You go to the doctor thinking you're fine, and all of a sudden, hey, maybe you're going into surgery, or your doctor tells you, hey, you're being diagnosed with this. Maybe it's a relationship where you know things are maybe not the best, but you didn't think they're as bad as what you thought, and all of a sudden you're being told, hey, we're no longer together. I'm breaking up with you, or I don't want to be with you anymore. Or maybe it's a financial job situation where maybe you get laid off. Like, these are all disrupts. These are all real possibilities in our life. And it's interesting that some people seem to struggle more with these different disrupts, whatever it may be. And I know I've had my own challenges and struggles in different disrupts, and honestly, throughout my life there's been different ones. When I was in high school, I had a disrupt in my health, where I found out that they figured out what was wrong with my heart, which was racing. I had AFib, and I thought, again, being a teenager, thought, my sports career was over. Like, it sent me into a panic and in anxiety and fear. I remember going into the bathroom in the high school and crying. And then there's been different disrupts where I've lost my job and essentially been asked to quit, or I was going to get fired. And it's like, okay, what's going on? Then disrupts in relationships, marriage. There's all of these things, and I've struggled in all of these, but I've also found a way to get through these challenges. And it's interesting, in each situation, the way was there, and sometimes we just get caught up in whatever that disrupt is, whatever the challenge and struggle that we're going through, and we forget what we need to do. And you'll see, some people hold on. They hold on to the struggle, the disrupt that they're going through. And these people end up just getting angry, bitter, resentful, turning to alcohol, potentially drugs, and you can literally watch their life spiraling down. And maybe you're in that spiral. I know I was. And it's interesting, as I'm talking about this, I was in a training 2 weeks ago now, and they put up a PowerPoint, and I printed it off. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's a spiral up and a spiral down. And they put the PowerPoint up, and I was looking at the downward spiral, and they literally, like, I saw the last year and a half of my life in that one spiral, as I slowly moved down and kind of went up and down in the downward spiral. And it was literally, I could see the last year of my life, or year and a half of my life. And on the other side is the upward spiral, where you're growing, you're moving up. And I'll throw some of these words, some of the things that happen as we downward spiral and as we go up. So as we downward spiral, some of the things that we may feel are pessimism, disappointment, worry, doubt, blame, discouragement. We might want revenge, anger. We get to insecurity, unworthiness, fear, depression, powerlessness, which leads into the depression, and everything leads into the potentials of suicidal thoughts and suicidal actions. And like I said, I saw my year after I was told that my wife didn't want to be with me anymore. I saw that a whole year right there in that one slide. But I also saw on the other side where I'm no longer there. I'm no longer on the downward spiral. And some of the things on the upward spiral include joy, empowerment, freedom, love, passion, enthusiasm, positive expectations, optimism, hopefulness, and contentment. And what I realized was that we can jump from the downward spiral over to anywhere on the upward spiral. But the reality is, if we don't get to contentment with where we are in our current situation on the downward spiral, because there's things that happen that cause us to start moving downward. And if we don't get to contentment within that situation, again, whether it's your health, relationship, finances, if we don't get to a place of contentment, we're not really going to move up. Because if we can't be content with where we are, that means we're holding on to what was, and we're not able to let go and move forward to what is possible for us. So we have to get to a place of contentment. And this is one of the things that I've learned, relearned, and it is just this place of contentment, of letting go, of surrendering, whatever situation you're going through, whether it's a relationship issue, finance issue, or a health issue. Like if we don't let go of that situation and say, okay, that happened, and whatever comes from it, it is what it is. I can either sit here and focus on that, or I can be content and be in a place of, okay, take a deep breath. This is where I'm at. This is not where I have to stay. So in life, there's all these disrupts, and we have to deal with the initial disrupt, and then we have to deal with the waiting, the patience of what's going to come from it. And sometimes that's not that long. Sometimes it takes years to see what's going to come from it, and as we move through it. But it takes a lot longer when we aren't able to let that disrupt go, when we're not able to move forward and surrender whatever it is we're going through and get to a place of contentment. If we're not able to be content and just say, hey, this is where I'm at, and I don't have to stay here, I can let that go. If we don't get there, the upward spiral, you're not going to be moving up. You might feel, hopefulness, optimism sometimes, but again, if we don't get to that place of true contentment, we're going to be on the downward spiral. So I want to encourage you, take a look at your life. Where are you at? You know, the reality is most of us probably aren't going to be honest about this question. Most of us are going to if we were in person and I asked, hey, how are you doing? You're just going to say, oh, I'm good. Every day's a good day. Better to be, I'm above ground, so life must be good. When the reality is internally, you're struggling with the overwhelmed feeling, the disappointments of life, the doubt, the worry, the potential anger, resentment, fear, depression. But we're so worried about people seeing that we hide it. We hide our situations when we have to be okay. We have to be content with where we are and be open about that. You don't have to be open about that with everyone, but you have to be open with it to somebody so you can actually acknowledge it and start to process it and start to move forward. So, I started with just a simple, my daughter dropped her phone, but the reality is we all have these disrupts in our life, and there's the initial shock, and then there's the period of waiting and going through the process of maybe if you want to call it grieving, but we're all either moving down or moving up on these spirals. And it can fluctuate day to day, but if we are not letting go of the challenges that we're facing, the situations that we're going through, and understanding that this is just a moment in our life, that we don't have to stay here, we don't have to allow it to keep pulling us down. We can let it go, surrender it, move forward, be content, and start finding ways forward. You're never going to move forward. You're going to continue down that spiral, and you may never get to the place of suicidal thoughts and suicidal actions and deep depression, but you're going to be constantly living in just the worry, the doubt, the anger, and you're going to start resenting the world. And we see this so often. People are just angry. They don't even know why they're angry. They're probably angry just because life hasn't turned out the way that they wanted, and so they're blaming other people. And again, we see this so often in other people, but it's hard to see this in ourselves. So I encourage you, where are you at? Are you on a downward spiral? And understand that, we're either going up or down. We can't sit in doubt forever. Eventually it's going to start moving downward into the discouragement, the anger, the revenge, the resentment. So where are you at? And do you want to stay there? If you don't want to stay there, are you willing to go get help? Are you willing to, maybe it's seek a counselor, maybe it's seek therapy, maybe it's just talk to a friend, trusted friend. And I'm willing to help people. I've been through this process, and if you are interested, I would love to show you what's helped me move forward, what's helped me get to a place of finally getting to contentment and finally getting to a place of, hey, I don't have to be on the downward spiral. I can start moving forward and moving up and letting go of the challenges that I'm facing. So again, where are you at? Are you spiraling downward eventually to get to a place of being out of control, where you're relying on alcohol, drugs, and just numbing yourself from the world? Or are you in a place of contentment and moving forward and feeling some joy, some optimism, and moving forward, eternally expanding in your life? So again, I don't know where you're at. I hope you take a honest look, and I hope you reach out to somebody. I'm willing to listen if that's what you need. So with that, God bless, and I love you.